I'm Valerie Renke with the Diocese of Olympia. Welcome today to today's workshop, Godly Play in a New Way. It's my pleasure to introduce our presenter, the Reverend Kay Flores. Hi, Kay.
Hey.
Kay has been the rector of St. Timothy Chehalis, which is about, say it again.
Chehalis.
Oh, with a Chehalis, with a sh too, like
No.
Chehalis. You can tell I'm not a Washington native, which is about 30 miles south of Olympia. I did look that up. She's been there for about 2.5 years. Before that, she spent most of her life in Wyoming, working as the youth and adult ministry coordinator for the Diocese of Wyoming. She's well known in the Diocese of Olympia as a trainer for the Godly Play Foundation. The foundation just created this training as a response to shelter at home, and we're fortunate to have Kay in Western Washington to bring it to us. We thought it might be a good idea to just go around and have everyone introduce themselves. Kay, jump in as you need.
Okay.
But just give us your name and your church affiliation and what drew you to this workshop. And maybe what experience you have with Godly Play in general. And do you have any experience with virtual Godly Play? So anybody want to jump in? And I will try to keep track of who's gone and who hasn't.
I can go.
Thanks. Thanks,
I'm Alicia. Sure. I go to St. Mark's Cathedral in Seattle, and I've been teaching Godly Play for about 3 years, and my kids are between about 4 and 7, 8. And we have been doing a virtual class for about 4 or 5 weeks now. Can't remember which. It all blends together. And I'm, just looking for ideas and wanting to know what other people are doing, and to keep the kids engaged and keep it fun.
Thanks.
Excellent. Mm-hmm. Susan, do you want to go ahead?
I don't know if you heard any of that. Okay, I'm Sue Tompkins, and I go to St. Barnabas, and we've been doing Godly Play officially since Karen came. And I also came about the same time, so I don't know what they had been doing before that, but some version of Godly Play, but I don't think using all the real stuff. And we have children aging from 4 to about, I think the oldest ones now are 8 or 9. Karen is building the families at St. Barnabas with younger children. So, and she has done Godly Play 2 Sundays, and then we're going to switch during the summer and add some more hands-on activities to the program.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Alex, how about you?
Hello, my name's Alex. I'm the new youth ministry coordinator for the diocese. I have almost zero direct experience with Godly Play. I went to 5 sessions about 5 years ago when I was going around the diocese promoting Camp Houston and the summer program there. Loosely affiliated with St. Christopher's Episcopal Church on Steamboat Island. Father James Thibodeau there is a bit of a legend in my opinion. He does a lot of youth engagement. Does that about cover it? Was there anything else?
So what drew you here? You don't mind me asking.
So on Mondays and Wednesdays, we're running Monday Fun Day and Worship Wednesday for 6th through 12th grade. And so I figure anything to do with learning more about online programming right now, how to make it successful and how to avoid some of the pitfalls that others have already fallen into would be useful. So resource gathering, a little bit of reconnaissance. And it's fun to hang out with you, Valerie, too.
Thank you, Alex. Well answered, too. How about the hustlers? You guys can jointly introduce.
Hi, I'm Christine Hostler, and I was just this year going through the Godly Play training for the first time. We are working at Church of the Good Shepherd in Federal Way, which has had a long-standing godly play program, but which had kind of dwindled both in children in the congregation and only getting down to a single trained godly play teacher. So we've been trying to grow that a little bit, and I think we've done about 8 sessions of godly play since online since we went on lockdown. We were doing the
Faces of Easter.
Yeah, Faces of Easter, and then we've gone into Knowing Jesus in a New Way.
Sweet. Very nice.
And I'm Josh Hostler, the rector of Good Shepherd Federal Way. Way back a long time ago, when I was the associate for Christian formation at St. Thomas Medina, I was trained in godly play. I know my certification has expired a long, long time ago, but I do still keep doing it just because someone's got to do it, and there usually aren't enough people on the ground who are trained. So that's where I am. I love godly play. I was really glad to find it already happening at Good Shepherd, but we only have about 6 kids in that age group. So we'll see. And what I've learned from doing godly play online is that it's not really godly play, not as we've just tried to do it. I'm really curious about what this workshop will offer, because we're looking at trying to do something different, just because godly play doesn't translate very well online.
Excellent. Mary.
So, Mary Nilsson, and I'm at Church of the Redeemer in Kenmore, and I've been doing godly play there for almost 3 years, and we have 2 classes, but now virtually it's a 1-room schoolhouse. So I have children from 2, a younger sibling, to 11, which gives many, many challenges, and I usually have between 6 and 11 children, so it's crazy. I've done it for 8 weeks now, and like Josh, it's kind of a combination of godly play and whatever is lectionary based for the day and who appears. And I've just resorted to a lot of manipulatives that I send out to the children afterwards so they can reconnect with what was taught. But it is challenging.
Are you making the manipulatives, or?
Yes, or just printing out pictures of things, something that they can look at later and remember the story.
Okay. Thanks.
In a different way.
Sweet. Christine.
Hi, I'm Christine Bingham. I'm the children's minister at St. Peter's Episcopal Church. I also went to the godly play training with Christine Hustler. And so far, we've been doing godly play probably twice a month for the past 2 years. And since quarantine hit, we've been posting, or I've been posting a godly play video every other week. And then sending craft ideas to parents or coloring pages for them to be able to interact with the kids, usually every single Sunday. And I'm just here because, new ideas, just expanding how we can do this practice through the summer is always good.
Thanks, Christine. And Heidi, let's go to you. And you'll have to imagine Heidi's avatar speaking. Heidi, are you there? Let's see.
How about unmute? Good. So this is Heidi O'Brien, and I work at St. Barnabas on Bainbridge Island with Reverend Karen and Susan Thompson. I have only been involved in godly play since Karen came. I think it's been a little over 2 years, and we've switched to online. I know Karen's has been sending out what we're calling the canned godly play stories, and then we started live a couple weeks ago with Karen. And as Sue mentioned, we want to move into something else, but I'm here because we've already discovered how different it is to be online with the stories. It's a very different experience when you're not in the room with them, and keeping everyone engaged and dealing with the broad range of ages, because you may be broadcasting into a home where there's a 2-year-old running around in the background, and our kids are generally like 4 to 8 or 9. So I'm hoping to get a lot of ideas today.
Thank you. And Karen, are you here? I see your beautiful picture with your hands in prayer. Okay, good.
What you're not seeing is my horrifying hair. There it is. Hi.
That is not horrifying at all.
Most of our meetings start with the discussion of our hair. I am Karen. I'm the rector at St. Barnabas, and I think I may have learned about godly play from Josh. Josh and I served together at St. Thomas. And actually I learned about it in seminary, of course, but saw it in practice. St. Thomas was the first church I served. So we are doing the stories of godly play, and we're doing the introduction of godly play, and then we're doing other things. And so I too, like most of you, am here because I want to see what other people are doing and want to see what works and what doesn't work. And yeah, I think that's the primary reason I'm doing this. And I think Kay is a marvel, so I feel lucky to get to be in her hands or at her feet today.
Agreed. And then Beth, welcome. Do you just want to say who you are and what church you're affiliated with? And
Oh, I'm Beth Goodmanson with St. Barnabas on Bainbridge Island.
Karen brought a nice team. That's awesome. And then I have this one person who's just a phone number. So I don't want to leave them out if they're there. 1-404-578-6611. Are you there?
Maybe you can unmute that person. Okay.
Are you there?
She did it.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to turn it over to Kay then, and let's get started.
Okay. So let me just tell you that I'm not sure I have answers today. What I have is a lot of ideas because none of us thought, I don't know who planned this. None of us thought that we would be doing this. I've been doing godly play. I first learned about it probably in the early 2000s. I was taking EFM at the time, and my mentor and friend said to me, oh, you should learn about godly play. So I bought some of the books, and it said in there, in Australia, they say godly play is EFM for children. And then somebody else said that actually what I usually say is that the other way, that godly play is EFM for children. So I like them both, and I'm involved in both of them. I'm a trainer for EFM and a trainer for godly play. I've been at St. Timothy and Chehalis for about 2.5 years, and we just had gotten a number of people trained in December, and we were trying to get this organized so that we were really going to have a kickoff, and then we stayed home. So we're still in the process of building a program at St. Timothy. But I've been working on this in lots of different ways, and what I find it's adaptive. But what I wondered first is, let's think about some of the things that make godly play godly play. So what is it?
Being able to touch.
Okay.
I was going to say the same thing. Touch.
Okay. All right. Touch. So those thingies, those artifacts or manipulatives, they have different names. The things that are in the room. Sure. I see Alicia says, seeing the children, seeing the kids, acknowledging them.
Individual blessings of kids. I just this last week, I just thought, oh gosh, they each need a blessing. So we did a blessing, through the screen.
So you found a way to do that. Karen says, recognizing children's innate spirituality.
Having a schedule where folks are kind of on that same, like there's a belonging piece, knowing that other folks all around the diocese are kind of talking about the same thing at the same time.
And there may be a belonging piece within each individual room as well. That's, for me, a piece of it is how we welcome children, how we value children.
Yeah, I think for me, it means a lot to try to create a community of the children. And instead of emphasizing that these are facts that you children get handed down from us and that you must memorize in the way we want you to memorize them, but instead talking about how these are our stories and these are your stories, and we can work with these stories together.
Right, you're right. We don't just funnel information, right? We give children a chance to make meaning.
Well, my favorite part is the wondering.
The wondering. Any specific reason?
Just hearing the creativity of the children, and as Karen mentioned, how they touch on their innate spirituality. It's always a surprise.
It is. Every day is a surprise with children. I see a quote. I'm not going to read it all unless Josh wants
read it, but it's in the chat to be read.
Okay. And this is from The Mystery of Christ and Why We Don't Get It. Okay? I'm not sure I've read that. You're going to have to send that maybe to Valerie later. Maybe we can share it all out and read it at our leisure. Great. Thank you. Okay.
With Faith mentioned, I believe, the wondering being her favorite part, and the kids have insights, hearing things, and they're looking at them from a different perspective, and their insights are amazing at times, and that particular part allows them to discuss and bring forward their thoughts and ideas, and it is very enriching for all of us.
Right. I learn from them.
Yes.
As well as I hope they learn something from the discussion, the conversation, and the relationships. So part of what makes godly play is the things we do together, but part of it is also, so what makes godly play godly play? And I'm just going to start with this as a broad summary, and we'll talk about it a little more later. What makes godly play, I think, are the unspoken lessons. We do lots of talking in godly play. We say lots of words and we say things, but as someone already said, we don't expect the children to regurgitate that to us. It's not a memorization. They're not the empty containers that are filled with information. The space, the godly play room itself, is a part of that. How we care for that space, how we live in that space. The time is a part of that, how we live in that time that we're together, which may be a long time, it may be a very short time, especially, I just read the headline of an article today about kids' Zoom exhaustion. I know I get tired of being on Zoom 7 times a day, some days, not every day. But the time, how do we live in this new time with the children? And then the relationships that we form. So these are all things that we have to think about as we do godly play in a new way. So we can talk and talk and talk about godly play. But I think that what I'm going to do is tell a story and we'll wonder together and try it. Now, I think most of you have done something, so you just never know when you start planning an event if people are going to have some experience, no experience. So I decided we needed to share a story together. I'm going to do it one way that I've enjoyed telling stories. This is the way that I think works the best for me right now, but I'll show you a whole bunch of other ways that people are doing this. Okay. So the first thing is this story comes from the Holy Bible. It comes from the very beginning in Genesis, way at the very beginning, in what we sometimes call the Old Testament, and you can't see it very well because, of course, I'm on a screen. It comes from the beginning of Genesis. In the beginning, there was nothing really, except for perhaps a great big smile, but there was no one there that could see it. In the beginning, God created the light. Now, I'm not talking about just the light that comes out of the light bulb or just the light of the sun or the moon or the stars. I'm talking about all the light that ever was. God created the light, and God separated the light from the dark. And God said, "It is good." On the second day of creation, God separated the waters above from the waters below. To do that, God had to create water. Now, I'm not talking about the water that comes out of the faucet or the water in a river or the water in a bathtub. I'm not talking about even all the water in the ocean. I'm talking about all the water that ever was, and God created that water. God separated the waters above and the waters below. Some people call this the firmament, and that's what separates. God looked at all that water, and God said, "It is good." On the third day of creation, God separated the water from the dry land. God separated the water from the dry land, and on the dry land began to grow all sorts of green growing things. Things that had fruit, things that were vegetables, things that were grasses and brush and shrubs. God separated the dry land from the water. And that was the third day. And God said, "It is good." On the fourth day of creation, God gave us the way to tell time. God gave us the great lights that rule the day, the sun, and the great lights that ruled the night, the moon and the stars. This gave us a way to keep track of time and to know when it was day and when it was night. God gave us those gifts on the fourth day, and God said, "It is good." On On the fifth day of creation, God made all of the things that fly in the sky, birds, and the things that swim in the water, fish, and some of the things that do a little of both, like rays, stingrays, that kind of ray, some of the flying fish, some of the things that just surprise us. God gave all of those things to us on the fifth day of creation, and God said, "It is good." On the sixth day of creation, God made all of the things that walk on the earth, some with 2 legs and some with 4 legs and some with many, many more legs. Things like you and me. God gave us a piece of God's own image. And God looked at God's creations on the sixth day, and God said, "It is good. It is very good." And on the seventh day of creation, God rested. Now, this card, this tile is white because so many things can happen on that day. Some people have been able to go to church on this day. Some people go to the mountains or by a lake or an ocean. Perhaps it's your own backyard right now. Perhaps that's where you go to rest. This day is so important to people all over the world. Some people remember it. The Jewish people remember it with 2 candles. Christian people remember it with the sign of a cross. But only you know where you go to rest on this day. Now, I wonder, what was your favorite day of all creation? And you can turn your mic off and on or just leave it off for a minute. Turn it on so I can hear you. What is your favorite day of all creation?
I'm going to say the first day, because without the first day, none of the rest would follow.
The first day. Yes.
I like the second day and the whole idea that God made a place where there wasn't water so that eventually there'd be a place where we could be.
The second day.
I like the last day because you can rest and do anything you want and find God wherever you want it.
And God is there. This is the last day. I wonder which day is most important.
I'm glad there was a day when people were put on the earth and other animals. That might be the most important.
That might be the day that animals were put on the earth.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I think the other days help us to be aware of all the different gifts we've been given in our existence. But on the sixth day, we kind of find our place, like, in the world.
On the sixth day, we find our place in the world.
Yeah. And it's interesting too. It's a good reminder that like we are creatures, and the world is full of creatures, and maybe there's fewer differences between us and all those other creatures than we sometimes remember.
We're all creatures on this earth.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I think any day is more important than the others, because I think that we need all of them to make a whole.
All of the days are important. I wonder where you are in this story of creation, or where you'd like to be.
I'd like to be in church on Sunday.
to be in church on Sunday?
I'd like to be on the seventh day and have a day to not do much of anything at all.
To be on a day of rest.
That's kind of a hard question, but I think on the sixth day, because that's of course where we come into it, but that's also where God is leaving himself, his image in each of us. And that's where love comes into the world.
Love comes into the world. I wonder if there's anything we could leave out of this story and still have all the story we need. I wonder what work you would like to do today. You may just have a pencil and a piece of paper near you. You may want to just sit and listen. You may have something else that you'd like to do, but we're just going to take a few minutes to do some work. It's not quite the same as if we were in our godly playroom together where there would be wonderful things to work with. All the stories would be nearby. All of the art supplies would be nearby. But I bet you have something that you could work with for just a few minutes. So I'm going to turn off my mic. I've got some colored pencils nearby. Probably also have my knitting nearby for those who know me. We have all the time we need, but now is the time to finish up what you're doing. If we were in our godly playroom at church, we probably would get back together now in the circle and share a feast, and you might do that in your virtual room. I've tried it, mostly with adults. That's up to you. But what I thought we would do is wonder together now that the story has ended, what it is that happened in that time that that felt like godly play to you, or didn't feel like godly play. What did you notice? I'll remind you our list had these things on there, the unspoken lesson of space, time, and relationships. Sorry, I'm flipping screens here.
I felt completely a part of the story. And you are a gorgeous storyteller, so that's part of it. But I felt really drawn into the story. And I particularly appreciated God saying that's good. And because we can't touch each other, watching you touch the tiles was very, that was rich, very rich for me.
Thank you.
I was also going to say I was drawn into the story as well, and just from a sort of a pragmatic note, when I like the way you, and I suppose now that I see you do it, it seems obvious, but you share the screen, so the work is, because I've been having the screen have this view and I'm holding the tiles, but being able to make that the focal point I just hadn't figured out how to do that, to make the story the focal point without me in it. So that was very helpful to see.
And I'll show you my device later on.
Oh, okay. Because I wanted to know how you did that. Yeah.
I tried a lot of, that works for me. Other people are doing other things, but that works for me. I'm going to take the slide off for a while so I can just see you while we're talking. Okay. Yeah, that works for me right now. Who knows? I may change that again too, but I do miss having the whole story spread out. Yeah. But the way I'm setting it up doesn't work that way very well.
For that story in particular, you felt like the omniscient God, with your coming in. So that disembodied look really worked for this story beautifully.
I found myself totally drawn into the story, and I'm grateful to you for that. The work time, I felt the tug of distraction
Okay.
The noise of neighbors across the street, the text that just came in on my phone to set up a time to talk right after this webinar,
Yeah.
the having to go find a pen to work on the work. It's easier to exclude myself because I'm not in a room with a dozen people in
Right.
real time, in real space.
Right. I thought of that before we started, and you might have noticed that I had my watch on and I put it on Don't Disturb, but then as I showed the first tile, I'm like, oh, that looks horrible. So I quick in the background took it off, which had not occurred to me. I had to pivot on that one. But I thought about the fact that texts, and I've been getting so many junk calls this week, that I thought of that I don't want to be distracted by things showing up. So, yeah, but it's easy to get pulled away when there's so much going on. And I imagine that that's true for the children too. Mm-hmm.
I've found in the 8 weeks that I've been doing lessons, the story, whatever story I tell is the most limited of importance, because what's more important is that the children get a chance to see each other and talk and share what's happening in their lives. And then we do a lot of praying as well. And that's when nuggets come up out of them. So, I would never even consider doing work time because it just doesn't fit into the Zoom session.
Right.
Yeah, I was thinking about really the work time a lot because we just assumed that you can't make it work over a Zoom call. But also, some of the children we have in our Godly Play group are really wiggly. And when we're together in the Godly Playroom and we've really established kind of what the norms are, it's still a struggle to get them to get ready and to slow down and to focus. And on the Zoom call, it's been like that much harder because they're on their own couch, they're running to ask their mom something, they're bouncing around in and out off the screen. And now this is making me wonder whether maybe having some kind of work element might actually help them focus a little more on what's going on. But I'm not sure how to do that in a way where I'm giving the children and the parents enough so that they know, so they feel empowered to do this part, but that I'm not dictating too strictly, like exactly what we're doing and exactly what they're working with.
That's huge. And I'll be curious to see how it happens. Karen, I see you.
Yeah, I have a question. We did a survey before we started doing Godly Play online, because all of our kids have been in school online and all of that. And we asked the parents how much time they wanted to spend. 20 to 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
20 to 30 minutes we don't do work. So, and I'm really appreciating what you're saying, Chrissy. So I would be interested in how long other people are spending.
And I don't even know how long I gave you today. It was my intention to give a few minutes, but I would look up, but you all seemed engaged, and I thought, okay, maybe this is our rest time today. Yeah.
We've been topping out at 30, 35 minutes. And that includes time that is really not Godly Play at the end, just to chat and just to ask how their lives are going. And sometimes we found that's the most transformative part. There was a wonderful moment that Christy jumped on. We have a family that's getting ready to move to the East Coast. And that's been complicated by the pandemic because Dad has already moved. And Mom doesn't want to move the kids until we're in a new phase in the pandemic and until school is out and all of that. But there's a 6-year-old boy who's the youngest of the siblings. And he was talking a little bit about his dad being on the East Coast. And And then he said, and my older sister's going to graduate from high school, and then she'll be gone. And then in 4 years, my other sister will graduate, and then she'll be gone. And it just seems like my whole family is falling apart right now. And he said this with a smile on his face. And his mom came zooming in and sat next to him at this point because she had never heard him talk like this before. And that this opened that up. And then Christy picked up on that moment to connect him with a girl in the same Zoom room from a different family, because she and her brother's dad had been gone all last summer doing training for work. 12 weeks he was gone. So hey, it's just like when their dad went away, and then she was able to make that connection. All of that outside of the realm of godly play, which tells me, great, godly play is a good reason to start, and we should keep doing it, but that personal connection is so crucial.
So from my perspective, that's what godly play is about in the room too. It really is, I think, about all of those things. The story is one piece of that. There's no test. It's about relationships and about giving children some time to process and a way to process and a way to make meaning. So when you say that this is outside the realm of godly play, I think it is godly play. So I'm going to go with you on that one. So I'll put my slide back up. So the unspoken lesson, I'm trying not to tell you everything you'd learn in training, but the unspoken lesson is everything in the room, which includes the materials. It includes how we organize the materials, but of course, and the care, the way we take care of the materials. Whole different world now. I do have a set of the godly play stories of God at home that I ordered for my house. So I do have those here. I can go to the church if I need things, but I don't have a room. This isn't my dining room table, right? So I have a little altar space behind me that I use. The room is different. So godly play is different, and how we take care of it is different. I don't know if you could see the rest of my house, you'd say, okay, so then godly play is also everything else that takes place. How we use our time. And it's true that most kids don't want to sit there, but I think if we value that time. It's also every interaction that takes place between the adults and between the adults and the children. That's different too. And what do we want to teach the children? We want to say to them, we welcome you. This is a safe place to wonder and to find meaning, and Dad's already moved, and we're not moving, and my sister's graduating. We do have a different language here. Yeah, we're on Zoom or we're on Facebook Live or YouTube, whatever you're using, but this is a different kind of language. You, the child, you, the adult, can use the stories to make meaning. These stories are valuable to us. We value these stories. I should change the order of that sentence because it's so passive. We value these stories. We love the stories. We love God. And God is present in this place, in this Zoom room at this time. So the Godly Play Foundation's website says, what is godly play? Children have an innate sense of the presence of God. The godly play approach helps them to explore their faith through story, to gain religious language, and to enhance their spiritual experience through wonder and play. It's based on Montessori principles developed using the spiral curriculum, which you go to a 3-day training or 3 days of training. You'll learn much more about that. The godly play method serves children through early, middle, and late childhood, and I add beyond. I think it's transformative for adults too. So just a few words about relationships. Our diocese has said, and maybe Valerie or Alex or someone may want to add in on this, we're still saying that 2 leadership, 2 adults need to be present in the room, even online.
2 unrelated adults.
2 unrelated adults.
So we make sure that there's a parent who sticks around when we do it.
This still matters in this time, in this place. Yeah. Thanks, Josh, for that. Okay, Valerie's got a thumbs up, I see. Godly Play is not recommending that we share recorded videos of children online or on social media. You can offer a different opinion. I'm not recording sessions that involve children. I'm not recording a whole lot of things in our church because we feel more comfortable, a small congregation. So I'm not pre-recording things. We're sharing things live on Zoom. Maybe that's just me. But we do say we don't think it's a good idea to share recorded videos of children. If you want to comment on that or add other thoughts, you may.
You record the session, like not pre-recording material for it, but do you keep a record of what goes on in the session, like recording the call?
I don't, but if you've got your two adults in the room, but now I'm still just figuring out how to do this with just children. I will say that my Godly Play practice has been well, it's always been this way, but it's more intergenerational right now than just me and children. But that's been my experience all along. My best Godly Play has been intergenerational. I've used it at camp. I've used it in sermons. I've used it. My favorite years when I was still in Wyoming were, I couldn't find a door person who was reliable and liked it. So we started this after work thing where the parents came with the children. Was that Godly Play? No, it doesn't fit all of the requirements of Godly Play, but it worked for us. And that's been my experience is the parents participated in the stories with the children. Had to train them not to tell the children things like, oh, you know the answer to that, tell Miss Kay the answers. Had to teach them not to do that. But the parents became friends, the children became friends. We worked together and learned stories intergenerationally. That worked for me. So I don't know if that answers your questions. Most of my work is intergenerational right now, and maybe it always has been.
Well, I'll just say for our team meetings, Alex and I do record those just by default, and they go into the archive just as backup, and if anything goes sideways, we have the recording we can go to.
Okay.
So that's just something to consider.
But you're not sharing them on.
Exactly right. Mm-hmm.
They go into liability.
Good point. Any other thoughts on that?
We record, but we're not posting at this point. Parents wanted pre-recorded sessions because they didn't think they would be necessarily able to get to Godly Play, and we've only done 2 sessions so far, and most of our families have been at both of them. We don't have that. There are like 9 families that I'm thinking of with kids this age, so not that many, but we don't, the link for the meeting only goes out to an invitation list. It doesn't go out to the whole parish, because if it went out to the whole parish, it would be out in the whole wide world. And so this is essentially a closed group for us.
Thank you.
I think
Did I hear the start of something?
you did, but then I was muted.
Okay.
But muted by others. I was just going to say when Sue, who heads up Godly Play at St. Barnabas, and I started talking about this, we decided that what was really important in this time was keeping kids connected to God, to the church, and to each other. And that has that is certainly at the heart of Godly Play anyway, but that has been sort of, at least in my mind, worked a bit like a mission statement where, when you're not sure what to do, go back to the things that you say matter and let that guide you and help you answer your questions. So, yeah.
I agree. Godly Play's been posting videos for a long time, but they were never really intended to be for the children. They were intended to be kind of training things. So if you go to YouTube and go to Godly Play Foundation, those are your best bets to get good quality trainers telling stories recorded. I don't and I've heard of people using those, but I think it's better for them to see a face, a familiar face, because it's about staying connected to your community and to God at the same time. Was it perfect? No, my story was not perfect. I don't know. I got off on the wrong track from the book, and I never did get quite back together today, but it is what it is. We'll go back to this last question. I'm going to just walk through the rest of my slides, and then we'll stop and talk. So these are just ideas. These are not like recommendations. So if you go to godlyplayfoundation.org, there is a statement that talks about Godly Play's permission to record and share the videos of the stories. And here's really what it says. So at the beginning, please state the name of the story and the publisher in the video, and note that the material is under copyright and owned by Godly Play. Limit the audience in some way, like you've mentioned. You can also, you should, if you're putting this on YouTube, use unlisted and share the link with the audience that it's intended for. And so share in a limited way, and then take the videos down after 3 weeks. It's not intended to be public forever. That's what Godly Play Foundation's board of directors has asked. So these were some of my Easter Vigil stories. We're having jumpy screens tonight. So I actually just, this is at my other dining room table. I have 2 tables, so you can see out my patio door. I just had a tray of sand, and I posed the figures and used my phone and took a snapshot and put it into a PowerPoint and told the stories from the PowerPoint, because technically that was easy and quick. So this is the story of the Exodus, and this is when they're on the other side of the river and Miriam's leading the dancing. So I posed them. I only put a few slides up, but there's probably 15 slides per. This is my document camera. This is at my dining room table, so it plugs into my computer, and then I can use the share function to share the pictures right under it. It was hard for me to get to the camera unless I did a lot of editing. So that's, you've seen what my camera looks like when the picture's there. I like that I can be in the picture. I'm pointing at myself there. I like that I can be in the picture, but not the focus of the picture. You don't have to own one of those. This is Cheryl Miner. She's the director of the Center for something for Godly Play. I'm sorry, I can't ever get her title right. And this is how she's doing it. She's also not spreading the story out. She's telling one tile at a time and using the underlay, but only telling one story at a time. And I think she has someone operating a camera. Here's somebody I took pictures and didn't get them from home. Here's somebody laying this out on a table in their, so there's the Zoom room and there's the table. These are just ideas. This person's using a standalone mic, and they changed out a game room. So the games are now holding the mic up, but the game table or the game cabinet was now the Godly Play cabinet. And this is someone posing herself. So she uses her camera as a second camera so she can see what it looks like outside of her room. It looks like she has a little feast going there with grapes and crackers and water. Just more slides of her setting it up. I like the way she did it. Here's someone sitting on the floor. A lot of people started sitting on the floor. In Godly Play, we've said that the floor is the great unifier. But now the table feels like the unifier to me. So by that, I mean the children and the storyteller sitting on the floor together, but it makes it awkward with the camera. So this is just somebody else sitting on the floor. I don't know how she's doing that, but she's in her own Godly Playroom. Gosh, one more. And this is the day nothing else worked, and I just held the tile up in front of myself. I took a picture of myself doing that. It's the only reason the phone's in the picture. So if nothing else works, do the low-tech way. One way I think, I'm still just working this out. These all say some ideas because I don't know the answers. So I think that maybe having some materials for yourself, if you can't get to the church or you don't have the stories at home, you can order from Godly Play Resources. And I'll show you this one in again, but I'm really excited about this. This just came out, I think, this week. You can see the, I should get an annotate tool out. There we go. This one right here. Well, okay, this one that says Home Edition Creation. Now for $15, you can buy a download and use it as many times as you want. I think that's a great offer. So you can order things for the families. We have to stop sharing a minute and go back. There's another website. Godly Play's got a lot of websites. I put the address upper left. Stories of God at Home. There's the book and then all of the smaller stories. And that's what I'm using at home is my smaller tiles are just the right size for my storytelling. But I wanted them at home, so I bought them. Some people have made their own stories. This is Jesus Mafa Jesus. I'm never sure which way it is. Pictures they found on the internet to be able to tell stories. Some people made things, clothespin people, and these are apparently sheep. I thought they were cool. Made a fire for Pentecost. Made a Jonah's boat. I think that's what it was. And then the response materials. Remember, this story has you adding things from home. So somebody made a question to go with this. So with doubting. Known in doubt. Okay, these are my last little bit of slides. How to support families at home while they help you facilitate. And that's what I guess I'm thinking about with the work. So once again, you can get a complete set, digital downloads. I did buy do-it-yourself cardboard sets for the families. I gave them this when there was a sale going on. The stories, they were called In Exile, and it was a couple different stories. The Easter pictures and what was the other one? I don't know. Here's where it tells us about digital downloads. Print out as many sets as you need. I think that's fabulous. So they could have their own set. That's sort of like someone said they sent manipulatives. I wrote that down. This could be something you sent so they can tell the story at home. This church did response material bags. So they set up, this was just recently, but they set up bags and this is their list. They put in 30 pieces of construction paper, some chalk, a glue stick, Google Eye stickers, non-drying clay, tissue paper squares, and pictures from National Geographic, and put them in a bag and did a porch drop. So you could offer some work materials so that people had things with them, is a thought. Someone mentioned 2-year-olds running around in stories. Cats have shown up in a lot of stories. But I put the picture up thinking that this looks like a home, I think, because of the cats. This is mine. I used a little piece of furniture and put souvenirs from the Holy Land, mostly. That was my Easter's got to come down this week. But this is the story that's behind me when I film anything for church. It changes up for the season. So use what you've got at home. Books that are available. If you haven't read the Green Book, I recommend it fully. Stories of God at Home is also useful. And that's what I have. So that's a bunch of material, but we wanted to leave 15 minutes or so for talking. So that's what I put together as ideas. I've been on, there are a number of Facebook pages. Knowing Godly Play in a New Way is a Facebook page, and there's a Godly Play Facebook page, and also Godly Play in the UK has given me lots of ideas. They let me join. So those are helpful if you like Facebook. Lots of ways to do this, and no right or wrong answers. So let's see. Karen had some questions that she sent in earlier. I am adapting greatly. You could tell by the way I told that story. I don't think I can do things the way I did them the right way. And I'm using that very quotational on purpose. I think we have to adapt. We didn't know 4 months ago, that we would even ever tell godly play online. How did we know that? So I'm adapting as I go. Same thing I'm doing with church, and that's why there aren't any days of rest. I don't know about Josh, but I'm always trying to think, what do we do next? How do we keep not just the children, how do we keep connected to God and to each other? And there's always something going on. And I don't know if some of it works, some of it doesn't. We keep trying. Karen also asked, what's working? That's what's working for me. You asked the question, you said 20 minutes or so is what your families can do, right? Yeah. Are you recording in advance or are you doing live?
No, I've only done 2, and as both Heidi and Sue said, they're going to take over in 1 more week. And I did this just because I wanted parents to see me committed to their children.
Yeah.
And because I really badly miss the kids. I open and do, I wrote down on those questions, you can see what we do all the way through. We do the Be Still song and we pray. And just for other people, we did a porch drop before the first weekend of Godly Play, and our Godly Play volunteers made the Circle of the Church Year calendars. And I got little battery operated tea lights. And then the first week I asked them to find or bring a cross. The first week I didn't ask them to do anything. The second week I asked them to find or bring a cross. And then next week we'll do prayer rocks. So I'm hoping they're creating sacred space in their home, and we talked about that at the beginning. But so we start, and they find the day that we're on and all that stuff, and they're all doing it together and holding up their things, and it's easier, I think, in some ways because they can make noise and swirl around. And we also last week started doing Be Ready. So unmuting one family at a time to find out if the kids are ready. Anyway, there's been, the adaptations and all of that, but I'm so just interested in how much can happen. We go to a screen share for the story. But how much of that and which of that do you do and still, have all the session you need?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. One of the parents in my congregation tells me that her child has decided clothing is optional during this whole time. I mean, that's how their lives have changed. And he doesn't actually come to much Zoom anything right now. He'll sometimes pop in and say hi. He's a bouncy little kid anyway, so I'm not stressing terribly much about it.
It's very freeing to me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's very freeing. Can I just ask a question? Did you say that was that creation story, was that a PowerPoint? Is that what you said?
The one I did today?
Yeah.
Nope, that was my little document camera, which I bought and I found so many uses for. I mean, like I can show scripture readings. Let me get the slide back and show you again what it looks like. I'm scrolling here.
And how much did it cost and where did you get it?
Right.
I tried all kinds of places and I ended up with Amazon because they had it, and some of the other places that had it, their websites weren't working. I don't understand. So and mine was $200 because I wanted some of this, but I know you can get them for under $100. Well, and so then it turns out we've used it for, well, I didn't use mine for this, but we had an outreach thing where a friend of mine taught a painting class using his document camera for the nursing home, and so they signed on Zoom. We provided the paint. I can use my document camera. Can't remember what brand this is, Pivo or something like that. I use my document camera to show the scripture readings during evening prayer instead of trying to type them into something every week like I was for a while. I found all sorts of things that it's useful for, so it did not seem like a bad expense to me, but you can spend a whole lot more if you want. So on Easter Vigil, though, I did the creation story using PowerPoint. You couldn't see my hands in it that way, but I did set up a PowerPoint for that. I've seen other people doing it, spreading it across their table with their camera on the other side. Like I said, the logistics of that just bamboozled me, and maybe that's just me. I could not figure out a way to make it look good and to make it any more visible than this. So I'm saying adapt. What else is working?
So what's really working for me is my living room is set up as the classroom. And so the children, I have the calendar, not that's on the wall, but the manipulative one that I made. And so they love seeing things that they know and recognize. And I have a number of stories here at home. And when I'm telling the story, I say, oh, I remember there's a piece in this one story, and I'll get the box out and I'll show it to them, and they'll go, oh yeah. And then all of a sudden they'll be popping up comments about that particular story. But it's my goal is just to connect them in whatever way I can. So if they see something that's familiar and remember a part of that story, that's great.
Yeah, I like that.
And they also, basically every week they get something in the mail from me, and that's just, they can't wait to get something. So it brings them back to it.
I have seen some people doing their church year calendars. So do you move it and show them where we are, that kind of thing? So yes. Locate them in time and space like you would in the room. Yeah. I have occasionally said, here's the Holy Family, here's the communion story. I don't have the whole World Communion and Good Shepherd and World Communion story at home. I have very basics at home, but
that was actually one of the harder lessons to do on Zoom.
I'm sure. I don't know if anybody got in on the Godly Play Foundation is offering these Zoom sessions once tomorrow. That's the story that Arlene DeCina is going to tell. And then, but you're not missing anything because we're using all of the same slides. I wrote the slides for that one too. And we're probably using it almost the same way that we did today. But they have, we've scheduled or tentatively scheduled 2 more sessions. So if you wanted to be in on the big group, it's much bigger. We can't talk like we are here today. I think this is better. I wish we could have made those smaller. So thanks, Valerie, for making this possible to have a small group where we can interact.
So does that mean I don't need to go to the training tomorrow?
It's going to be very much the same, except for that she's going to tell this story of Good Shepherd and World Communion. And you'll see the same slides because, yeah. You did get in? I thought, okay, you got in, but the rest of yours didn't. I think you could also, I don't remember if I said this when you and I chatted on email. You could, did I suggest a watch party, like going in on YouTube or on Zoom and doing a watch party?
No.
I never thought of that.
Good idea, though.
Yeah. So it's up to you.
This is good.
Okay. There will be other sessions. There are 2 other topics and other sessions are being set up.
Quick question.
I have a question for Mary.
Okay.
Yeah. Mary, I remember you, this is Heidi on St. Barnabas. You mentioned that you have a lot of sharing, and I'm just wondering, do you have that like after the story or after work or?
No,
how do you unmute everybody or how do you do that?
So the kids, since they Zoom for church or for school as well, they've developed really good habits. So they know that they need to be muted unless they raise their hand and I say their name. So we start with sharing because no one arrives at the same time. And it might be sharing just something they want to say or something they want to show. So that's kind of our squirrely time. And then we start with prayer, and I have them all help me light the Christ candle, because that's when class starts. And so they all, go like this, and they click the battery candle. And I do, just a very short story, and then connect in, do a popcorn prayer where I'll start the prayer, and then everyone participates in it. So that's what I do.
So how do you end it? What's the last thing you do before the session's over?
I always say, we have 5 minutes left, so it's time for us to do our prayer. And that's when I get that started, and everyone has their part. And actually, we probably had 10 more minutes, but I, try to winnow it down as much as I can. And then I'll just say, my final prayer is always, I pray for all of you, and I look forward to seeing you next week. And with that, I'm going to say goodbye. And then they all say goodbye. And it's, they all know, in the classroom too, I'm very, I'm the one who gives them the cues, and they know that they need to follow what those cues are. So, once the first 2 sessions were done, they understood, how Zoom classes happened, and that it was different. And so they've really responded well with that.
Great, thanks.
You're welcome.
Quick question. What are people doing? It seems like if we'd stayed on a regular schedule, a lot of places would have taken a break from Godly Play over the summer. I'm really feeling the need to continue it, or to continue something, and I wonder what people have specifically in mind for stories over the summertime.
We haven't actually planned our stories yet, but we are planning to continue through June with this. Some of that is at St. Mark's. It took us a few weeks to get it together. So, and here in Seattle, our school's going through the end of June as well. And so I don't have, I actually, with the woman who runs our children and family ministries, I have an eye on, let's do the stories that are best told in this format, because there have been a couple that it just hasn't really worked very well. So we're going to do the story that, maybe I do it on a slideshow now that I have a few more ideas. Maybe that'll widen my range, but we're just trying to do something that fits with the format more than, with what's happening at church or whatever, once Pentecost is over.
I plan to work on parables, because I think that they'll be easily transferable on screen. And I didn't get a chance to do the parables like I had expected to, so.
Sue?
And we met yesterday without Karen, so I'm going to give her some information she doesn't have. But we decided to try and go through July, but we're not going to do the Godly Play stories per se, because it's summer. And so we're going to use the same format we've used for Godly Play, which is the calendar, the Christ light, a prayer, be still, with motions, now that some of us know there are motions, which Karen knew and we didn't. And then we'll end with and we're debating about when to share. And I have mixed feelings about that. I think it can also be done at the end, depending on what you're sharing. And then putting out your Christ light and a prayer to end with. In the middle, we're going to use a different, it's Spark House, I think, Bible to do a few stories. And then we're going to try some activities and just see how it goes. Our kids, as many of you have said, have a huge age range. We just wanted to see if we could get them a little bit more physically involved. And so some of it will be some songs, some of it will be some games, some of it will be some craft activities. And I'm blessed because there are a couple of people in the group who are super crafty. And there were some suggestions with the stories of things to try. So that's the format we're going to try through July. And then I'm not sure whether we're going to do August at all or whether we're going to come back and look at it. But we just wanted to try something a little bit different to see how it goes. And I don't even know if Karen thinks this is going to be a good idea or not, but it's kind of like we'll get out and see what happens.
Sue, please describe the Noah's Ark story that Dina's going to do with the stick animals.
Yeah, I don't have the stuff right in front of me, but it's the basic Noah's Ark story. And then the craft is to take something like popsicle sticks. They make craft popsicle sticks. And you can make animals to stick on the sticks. And then we're going to do a little parade and some things like that, so that we get them moving a little bit, but not too far, because I'm a little, I would prefer they stay in the room. Let's just put it that way. It's a control issue, right? And each, not every week, but many weeks, we will be doing porch drops offs or mailing supplies.
Well, I am aware that we are ticking down on the time we promised. Lots of good, rich sharing here today. Thank you for those ideas. I'm looking forward to hearing how it goes this summer and maybe this fall, depending on how it all works for us. I was going to ask Josh to do the way he blessed the children in his group last time, but he's gone. So I wish you all a wonderful week. I'm so glad you were here today. May God's blessing be with you each and every day.
Thank you so much, Kay. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kay.
Thank
Good
you
night,
all.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
See you soon, I hope.
Thanks, Kay.
Thank you.
That went beautifully.
Okay, anything you need to...
Yeah, and I will just keep you in the loop as we get this trimmed up and into a pretty format.
Okay.
And we'll get it shared out to the greater field.
Okay.
Wonderful. Take care. Enjoy your afternoon, both of you.
Yeah, thanks. It was nice to meet you, Alex.
Nice to meet you, Kay. That was inspiring.
Thank you. It was fun to do with you all.
Have a good day.
I'll be leaving. Bye-bye.